Everybody's connection to food is different. We've all been raised by different families who have different cultures and backgrounds, and building relationships around those practices is fundamental. To invigorate the connection with food, to give people space and the ability to reconnect and understand where their food actually comes from is the most empowering thing you could do for a human being.
Food sovereignty, it's a term that can be explained in so many different ways. True sovereignty, I think, is our land back, and our medicines back, and all of our foods back, and our health back, and our mental health back. And all of that stems from being in balance and connected with the land.
So food sovereignty is fundamentally connected to the restoration of contaminated landscapes, but also the return of native landscapes into Indigenous ownership and Indigenous stewardship.
We need to think holistically about our foods like we would think holistically about what our sovereignty is. And we need to think about not just the interconnection between sort of environmental justice in our foods, but also cultural, spiritual justice in our foods, criminal justice in our foods, and the ways in which we know at the heart of who we are that we should know our food.
We're a college that really is proud of our natural resource sciences, and you'll find multiple labs around campus to study kind of Western approaches to environmental sciences. That space is really lacking for Indigenous knowledges.
I'd say the Food Sovereignty Lab started in Native American Studies 331, which is Indigenous Natural Resource Management Practices. It's a course that brings people together to kind of think about natural resources from an Indigenous perspective. A lot of the times the students are learning for the first time about colonization and settler colonialism, and they're finding out that they really did go after our foods. And they get focused on the part where they're sort of saying to themselves, well, what can we do about it? I think the biggest thing I've learned from students is they want their campus to be something meaningful and powerful, so they don't feel like they're just here to get an education and get out. They're like, we want to do something. We want to leave something behind. We want to build something.
It's always interesting because this university really boasts its Native American Studies department while kind of taking it away at the same time. And there's even things here that are misrepresenting Native culture, which has nothing to do with this region.
We kind of all put our heads together and just like threw ideas out about some of the things that we felt would re-indigenize the community.
We collectively decided that we didn't feel that we had the authority on that, so we decided to actually start doing interviews of faculty, staff, associated people with the university, and local tribes with what they wanted to see in the university to properly represent Indigenous students and the Indigenous communities.
We took all of those ideas that we'd had and what people had responded with, and then we came up with food sovereignty as being a really important central need, and it's something that we could implement here.
A significant part of that feedback was that an outdoor space and landscape was really important for community, for hands-on learning, resurgence and reconnection to traditional foodways and Indigenous sciences and knowledges.
And we collectively then came up as a class to do a lab space here because we saw that as a way to incorporate the desire for a native plants garden, the desire for a space for cultural activities, for medicine making, regalia making, and also for further research into things relating to Indigenous resource management and stuff like that.
The Food Sovereignty Lab is not the first instance of indigenizing this campus. There have been movements since the university was founded of Indigenous peoples carving space out for themselves.
Originally, this space behind us here was designated to be for the Native American Studies department. It was actually supposed to be something like a lab for cultural activities. For whatever reason, the space was taken away and then it was turned into a commercial space for overpriced drinks and junk food. Ultimately, that space wasn't successful here and the university decided to close it down.
We were like, well, there's this space. It's literally attached to the Native American Forum. It's right across from the building that houses the Native American Studies Department. It's right next to CCAT, which is all about food production. We should have a food sovereignty lab here.
The students put in an application to acquire a space, and it was rejected because traditional ecological knowledge was not considered something that was applicable or useful for the entire student body. But I think what students who designed and proposed this project really want to get the campus community to understand is that Indigenous knowledge actually needs to be incorporated into all of our environmental sciences and can't be treated or siloed off to the side as something that's marginally interesting, but actually we need to reconfigure the way we think about landscape in this place in ways that center Indigenous experiences and Indigenous knowledges of this place.
During finals, during the last couple of weeks of semester, we banded together. We went out and got over 100 letters of support, submitted them to the University Senate, and appealed this.
5 students, a representative of the Wiyot tribe, and Dr. Riesling Baldley testified in front of the HSU Senate saying what a misuse of the campus's facilities it was to deny us, especially based on racial bias, that an Indigenous space couldn't be a space for everyone. There was a lot of bickering and administrative stuff. Finally got conditionally approved on the understanding that we would fund the lab entirely ourselves.
We're very, very grateful to be here today with you all. I'm Dr. Riesling Baldley. The Food Sovereignty Lab, which is actually going to be right here in this building, as you might be able to see from all the signage. This was a project that was put together by students. This was a vision of theirs, and now should be open in fall. We were told we had to raise $250,000 if we wanted this to happen. They expected it to take anywhere from 3 to 5 years, and we did it in less than a year because of individual donors who stepped forward. So this is a community project. In Hupa we say ts'ehdiyah, niwho. That means I'm happy for all the things we're gonna do together. Thank you, everyone.
Before this space has already been built, before it's been renovated, it's already furthering students, it has programs, we're already giving back to our community and to our tribal members and partners.
I mean, you guys are living it right now. We're at an Indigenous Foods Festival that came out of nowhere just because we were like, we should do cool stuff. You can really tell that what this means for the university is huge. There's no other university that has a food sovereignty lab at all. And we're now becoming a traditional ecological knowledges institute.
The interior of the Food Sovereignty Lab will include a commercial kitchen, plant drying racks, plant processing spaces, seed bank, community seating, computer stations, work tables, and in the exterior of the lab, we are envisioning this space actively with community feedback. The feedback we've received indicates that this space should include acorn processing, regalia making, community gathering area. This will also include a salmon cooking pit, which is currently established. This will also include a native plant landscape and signage that will introduce visitors to this place and how they can come and visit in a good way, a way that is respectful to the fact that this is Wiyot land.
We gather here today on unceded Wiyot lands that were taken in the Wiyot peoples without consent, without compensation, and without just compensation to their tribal governance. And so we acknowledge that today.
Since Cal Poly Humboldt was established in this place, Wiyot peoples have not had access to this place. And these plants and these more than human relatives have not been sung to or cared for in a really long time. So now we're in a phase of reconnection.
The reconnection of our traditional foods has been happening for a really long time. But when I think about Indigenous food sovereignty, I'm thinking about liberating our rivers, liberating our fish, returning fire to the landscape. Food sovereignty, I think, is so important in this particular moment. And I think this center, this institute really embodies the nature of that work. This is such a joyous moment, and I'm so happy to welcome you all to Rou Dalagurr Food Sovereignty Lab and Traditional Ecological Knowledges Institute.
We fought so hard to keep our acorns and to protect our salmon. And I think decolonization happens quickly. I think it actually moves quickly because it just sort of makes more sense. I don't think that you can change the world thinking in a singular way. I think you need to be able to pull from multiple ways of thinking. I hope that the lab will come in and help students see that their vision of what they want to do needs to also be informed by Indigenous peoples, and that knowledge comes from a very honest and open and forthright place about not just what we have always known about the places that we live, but what we have continued to do to manage the places that we live, even if those things are not highlighted, centered, or acknowledged in contemporary curriculum or educational experiences. What can the world look like if we all, instead of centering capital and economy, become people that really think about the long-term impacts of what we're doing here and then how we live in a way that everyone can drink the water and everyone can breathe the air and everyone can eat the food, right? Those things we can fix. We can actually do something about it.